Hi, my name is Sergey, and I want to help people out there who, just like me, have neither money nor equipment to make a film, but do have a strong desire to do so. I'm going to break down the movie I made, and I'm going to show you step by step how I did it. So yeah, let's begin. Problem 1. How to write a film. It all started with the idea that I had. I wanted to capture a moment that I saw at a party. There was a boy who was about to leave, but before he could, a girl came up to him. She made him stay. The world around them no longer existed. Clearly, these two people liked each other. The moment was even more precious, because it wouldn't last forever. The boy was wearing his coat.
Я Аня.
Захар,
Ты предложишь мне стать твоей девушкой?
ты будешь пытаться залезть ко мне в голову?
Мы встречались раньше?
Всего лишь знаем друг друга год.
Год? Я не знаю тебя год.
Какое сегодня число?
3 января.
It was the feeling of being in the here and now and of being happy, but also having an awareness that it is going to end. And no matter what happens in the next moment, only one thing is certain. It will soon be gone forever, never to be repeated again. This idea sticks in your mind for some time and begins to grow. It's undoubtedly beautiful, but there is a good chance that it sucks at this stage. It's not interesting enough. The idea that I described didn't actually happen the way that I said it did. In reality, I was at a party and caught sight of two people chatting in the doorway. I had no idea what they were talking about. It was the image that was sustained in my mind and grew into something bigger. You have to elevate your initial idea. My friends are talking in the doorway. That's the first step. Raise the stakes, increase the intensity. To take a step further, what if they were in love and they clicked? Alright, he is leaving, he has to leave. And this connection is going to be severed. And they may never click again. If they are lucky to see each other again, that's better. But what if, on top of an obvious attraction to each other, they behaved like jerks in trying to hide their true feelings? They acted as if they didn't like each other at all.
Конкретно для женщин два способа справиться с одиночеством.
Какие?
Резать вены или спать со всеми подряд.
Ты же вообще ничего не понимаешь в женщинах.
Я понимаю все в женщинах.
Ты мудак.
Now that is something to build your script from. Problem 2. How to structure a script. Any story is a progression from point A to point B. And since I have limited access to resources, this means that it's also necessary to limit my idea. The short film that I'm making is a single conversation. So this progression has to happen in dialogue first of all, more importantly, in relationships between characters. If you want to grab your viewer's attention, you have to start with a hook. I chose to begin with a heated argument. At this point, there is no way of making clear to the audience exactly what they are fighting about. But we are able to establish a dynamic between the boy and the girl.
Нет.
Что значит нет?
Нет, значит нет. Включил этого мудака. Твоя тактика дерьмовая, она не работает.
And each of them is trying to come out on top. Cut. Now we show a moment of connection. We see them having a good time and laughing together about something. Initially, in my script, when he starts behaving like a jerk, she states that it's because he's insecure. Instead of fighting back, he breaks the pattern and begins to joke about how he was insecure in school. He had a deformed body as a teenager with huge nipples. This is the only thing he got from the father he has never met.
Ну и за все время он подарил мне одного такого огромного плюшевого зайца, и я даже взять его не могла. А потом он просто вышел на улицу, бросился под машину, и я такая, что это все?
At the slow, calm connection point, we establish that they actually like each other, and the viewer has a chance to process what's happening now, what was shown before, and how it all connects. If we establish characters as having a love-hate relationship, this means that in the end, they have to make a choice. They must decide which one is the truth. I wanted to have a happy ending in which the love side would win out. But before that decision could be made, the characters continued in a state of tension. The longer you want your script to be, the more dynamic shifts you must have. You do not need to make them longer, just have more of the shifts. We already have one high point and one low point. We must heighten the dynamic and take them both higher and lower respectively. At some point, there has to be a heated argument, a breakup, followed by a sincere demonstration of feelings. In this, they will finally come to understand that they don't want to fight anymore. They choose love.
Я хочу это говорить. Я буду это говорить. Я тебя люблю.
We show that they have learned their lesson, or at least they are trying to. They are maybe not quite there yet, but they want things to be better. And that's going to be our happy ending. By the end, the boy still has to leave, but now he invites her with him. The structure is undoubtedly an emotional roller coaster that takes the audience along for the ride. The important thing to take away is that by the time the ride is over, everything looks the same as it did before. But something within each rider has changed. It's the simplest version of a script structure. But you're only making a short film, and the simpler the structure, the better, especially if you have to wrap it up quickly. Problem 3. How to write a script. Let's break down the movie. In the beginning, we quickly establish their personalities. The film kicks off with them attacking each other. This part is a brief setup which ends with the turn. They know each other, and they had an intimate connection before. We see it through his eyes, and his eyes are filled with love. She didn't care enough to remember him. In her mind, by pointing out that he remembers and she doesn't, the protagonist implies that she is a slut. An attack is launched. Do you feel lonely? She asks. This, in turn, triggers his jerk mode. Moreover, the protagonist believes that he understands women, and they like to be treated this way. Cut, we see the moment of connection. It doesn't last because of his misconception.
Деньги — это мерило того, что стоит твоя личность, и вы их используете.
This triggers her. Cut back, she wants nothing from him but to beg forgiveness. The protagonist won't give in. The breakup. Their game ends, we see them as real people.
Прости, прости, прости.
Еще есть такой курс про пудлера.
What's going to happen next? The game is on when the protagonist tries to explain why his point of view is right. She won't take it anymore. This jerky behavior won't work. Instead, he gives in, he loves her. This is said out loud. Their conflict ends. He wants to be better for her. We need to see that the lesson is learned. Cut back to the doorway. Instead of trying to prove something, he changes the topic completely. We see them connect. They are both jerks. We can see that clearly, but it doesn't mean they can't love and be better for each other.
Пойдем.
They leave together. The story is quite simple. It's only 8 pages. But on set, we were working with the script that was 25 pages long. You may ask, how's that possible? Problem 4. How to find people to make a film. What about actors? There are people out there who are building their portfolios just like you. I got in touch with several different theaters in my city, as well as utilizing online communities of actors. I posted ads, and the offer was this: star in my film, in exchange you will get a good piece of work for your portfolio. Through some of the actors, I was able to get in touch with agents. Through this connection, I found one who liked my idea and agreed to send me the actors she represented for a small fee. A couple of days later, I had about 100 video presentations from actors in my DMs. The catch was that most of them were beginners who were all keen to improve their portfolios. This meant that there had to be an extensive casting process. I narrowed the list down to 80 performers who fit the character images in my head. Then I sent them 2 pages from the script, which had completely different emotions. Firstly, I wanted to see their range. Secondly, I wanted to find out what they got from the material without any direction. But most importantly, I wanted to check their motivation. What I mean by that is that half of the actors didn't care enough to take the trouble to sit down and record themselves. After I got about 40 videos, I sent the same pages again, but with some notes on my directions. I gave them more context, explained what was behind the lines. Again, some were not motivated enough to send a second video. At the end of this, I had about 10 highly motivated performers with great skills and acting range. Then it was time to meet in person.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Алексей Двоеглазов.
For a couple of weeks, we met one-on-one. The next move was to bring the couples together and rehearse. We talked, read the script, and tried to work through my directions. I managed to find 2 potential couples.
Дело ведь не только в дырке между ног. Есть другие понятия, вот забота, поддержка, вот эти все дела.
One of those couples didn't show up for the meeting. It really sucks that they wasted mine and their own time in this way, but to hell with them. I think this question of motivation is one of the most crucial. During online casting, I really liked an actress called Polina and an actor, Nikolai. Turns out, these two had worked together before. They had an instant chemistry, and I had my cast. The director of photography on the project was an old friend of mine. At first, she didn't want to work with me, after the stress of our last project. It took some convincing, but I was able to bring her around. Finally, I found a sound engineer through my wife. Hot take. Making a film with inexperienced actors is doable, you can rehearse extensively. But when it comes to forming a crew, I strongly recommend finding professionals. On set, you will be able to focus on your director's job, namely the actors, instead of wasting time on solving the problems with sound and video. Problem 5. How to shoot a film without any equipment. You are going to have to rent it, which means there is a limited amount of hours to make a movie before you go broke. And this means that your actors and your crew will have to do their work quickly. Problem 5.1. How to shoot a movie quickly. Rehearse with the actors and the crew. Problem 5.2. How to rehearse with the actors and the crew. Now that's the right question. I knew I had to have a location to meet and rehearse. Moreover, I needed a place to shoot my movie. For my previous film, I had to rent a studio, which combined with the cost of the rented equipment, took a big bite out of the budget. Then a brilliant idea hit me. At least back then, I thought it was brilliant. Let's find a warehouse and build the set ourselves. This way, we would only be paying for one location and could use it as a rehearsal space as much as we wanted. I recruited my friend to help me find the place. Some warehouse in or outside of the city. I recruited my friend to count how many materials we needed and take charge of this project. I needed hands, so I asked my brother and friends to help me. We managed to find a great location near the metro, signed the documents and paid the money. It was 2 months before the first day of filming, and there were planks and chipboard lying around everywhere. My friends were putting on gloves. I was terrified. Problem 6. How to build a film set. I had no clue how to do it. I've read that the most basic crappy movie sets are made the following way. 2 horizontal and 2 vertical wooden planks make a frame. Another pair supports this structure. Then you need to use metal brackets and screws to bind it all together. The chipboard is stapled on the front-facing side of the frame. Repeat this process many times and you will have your room. We had one long frame put up between the actual columns and the top of the walls of the room. Then we had sections within these frames. The next problem comes in transforming the theory into practice. Having never done this before, we were unable to make the angles exactly 90 degrees. Only one of us knew how to use a saw. Without measuring anything properly, we ended up cutting the boards too short and nothing seemed to fit. When the chipboards were stapled, the whole structure collapsed under its own weight. Because I was too obsessed with the budget, I bought just enough materials for a given day. And when my calculations failed me, I had to drive to the store. This is money saved on the screws versus money wasted on gas. There were two shots. One was looking up and the other one down. Instead of cutting them from my film, I stuck with them. We stretched some tarpaulin material above the walls. Then I had a golden opportunity to use the rolls of laminate flooring that we found in the building. We managed to lay it down on the concrete floor, but if someone stepped on it, it would crack. It had to be constantly replaced. Again, money saved, a lot of unnecessary stress gained. Another idea that stuck with me, which should have been cut, was that I had to have a column. So we had to build a fake one. It would fall under its own weight, and when it did so, would bring down our crappy walls. Now we had our crappy room built, and it looked just like I described it. We thought if we added some detail to it, it could pass, so long as we kept it in the background. We borrowed a door frame from our neighbors. The door itself was just standing next to the frame. Our final blunder was deciding to build a fake window. An insane amount of screws, metal corners, and time later, we managed to put it up. We used some borrowed plastic frames to simulate the look of a window. Over the last weekend, we put up wallpaper and painted the room orange. It just had to be orange. We borrowed some posters and bought a mirror. I had to have a mirror. I was so passionate about it. You can see us holding it during video test. We couldn't figure out how to attach it to our crappy walls. Problem 7. Which composition, color, and gear to choose for a film? Now this is when rehearsals come into play. So we had a simple process. Conceptualize, rent equipment, try it out. Adjust your plan, rent equipment, and test it out again. We rented the gear for only a couple of hours and filmed rehearsals to try out our shots. Originally, we had a huge list of equipment we thought we needed for the shots we had planned. If you think you can show up on set and figure out cinematography as you go, you will soon find out that it's a great opportunity to lose some money. As I was writing a script, I did sketches of specific shots for the film. I had a simple plan. As the conversation progresses, the more the conflict grows and the more dramatic the shots get. And in the end, when they connect, we have the dual shot of them standing in the doorway, ready to leave together. No one could actually understand what those circles and triangles represented, so my wife, she's an artist, drew the storyboard. First time we tested the shots, they turned out to be a bunch of crap, just people standing next to the walls. We redid the storyboard and rebuilt the set accordingly. The second run was much better. As we went along, we tried working with different cameras and lenses. Also, we had several potential sound setups to try out at the same time. After a dozen rehearsals, we knew exactly what kind of shots we were getting and exactly what gear was needed to pull them off. It was a tight and affordable list that we could rent for a couple of shifts. So, what sound equipment do you need? The gold standard for audio is Sennheiser. We used lavalier microphones for all characters in the shot, which was never more than 2 or 3. An overhead boom microphone was also a fail-safe option if the laughs fail. Also, you needed to record the noise of the given space. This is when you don't record your dialogue, everyone is quiet, but you record the sound that the space makes. You need this as a base for building the sound image of your film. Everything was connected to a mixer station plugged into a laptop. As for video, in simple words, Sony cameras are the gold standard, with a wide and a long lens for different shots. Hard lamps are necessary for lighting characters, soft to fill in the space. The lights have to be opposing temperatures in order to separate the foreground from the background. The last piece of equipment is a camera stand with a movable head. This is actually all you need to make a film. After this, the sky is the limit. Problem 8. How to plan a movie shoot. All of the people on the team either worked or studied during the day. Same goes for the extras we knew we had to have. That is why we decided to shoot at nights. Moreover, the rent was cheaper this way, because it turned out there are not many idiots like me. I'll explain why shooting at night was a bad decision in the next chapter. I knew our shifts for filming couldn't be too long, and we could only have so many of them. I've calculated that the most doable schedule is to have 3 nights with 6-7 hour shifts. To properly organize the movie shoot, I had a director's script. This allowed me to know minute by minute exactly what I was going to do on set. Side note, from the very beginning I had a simple Excel file to keep track of the entire pre-production process, with one aspect of it per tab. What does a director's script look like? The first 2 columns are visualization/storyboard and scene number. Then, which pages from the script correspond to what we are shooting in the scene, plus the lighting setup. Then a list of gear, costumes and props that were needed for each scene, and whether we had extras or not. We tried to have the scene with a large group of people filmed on the first night.
Сцена 2, дубль 1.
Поехали! The last column is for the total estimated time it would take to set up and shoot the scene. When the 6-7 hours threshold is reached, I knew this is our limit of scenes for this night. Move on to the next one. My wife and I invited all of our school, university and work friends to be extras. On the one hand, it was super stressful to have so many people staring at you whilst you are trying to steer the ship. On the other hand, it felt really good to have such great support. Problem 9. How to shoot a film. I finished the script just before the filming night. The set was built, we knew exactly which shots we needed and how to use the equipment to get the best results. We had our extras in blue clothes, part of my vision. The camera was rolling, microphones were recording, our characters were looking at each other. A clapperboard marked Scene 1, Take 1. I've already said that I was an idiot choosing to shoot at night. The thing is, when people work during the day and make a movie at night, it means that mistakes are bound to happen. For example, at one point we chose the wrong camera settings and all of our footage from the first night went down the toilet. We had to shoot twice as much next time. It was kinda crazy. Each day after work we went and borrowed the equipment. We were shooting on set until the early morning. I was on edge, running from person to person. It soon became clear that I was actually making things worse instead of solving problems. Everyone quickly became tired of the schedule and of me. They started hiding and taking naps. We managed to finish principal photography on schedule. We had to shoot one more scene. Because our rental of the warehouse space had ended, I had to build the set at home. We would wrap up by the early morning, but the rental store opens at noon. If the equipment isn't returned on time, you get fined. Which meant we only had a couple of hours of sleep. Then we drove and returned the equipment. This routine had to be repeated 3 times over. It was a very stressful period. At one point, I ended up in a car crash because I lost consciousness behind the steering wheel. There is a tradition on set to break a plate for good luck. But, in our case, the dish cut my arm. Nonetheless, we did shoot our final scene of intimacy. It was beautiful and it became the key scene of the film. The only way to make a debut movie is to have it filmed 10 times over before the camera is rolling. When we got to the set, the actors and the crew only repeated what they had been learning for the past months. The director has only one job on set. Problem 10. How to direct actors. As we were testing our equipment, I was also rehearsing with actors. We began with script readings. I tried explaining it to the actors, the meaning between the lines, and they were telling me what lines sounded fake. The main book I used to learn what to do was Directing Actors by Judith Weston. Go and read it, because I can only cover so much in this video. The first lesson that I learned from this book was about directing using verbs. This is when you avoid using adjectives and instead focus on playable actions. Judith Weston actually demonstrates this beautifully herself.
I think you should never lie. I don't think you or anybody else should ever lie. Don't lie to me. Okay? So that would be to convince. If it's accused, then it's, I know you lied. I know you did. You've been lying all along. You've been lying every day of your life. Do not lie to me. Okay? Or if it's bae, then it's, I don't know what I'm going to do if nobody will tell me the truth. I need to be told the truth. Don't lie to me.
The second takeaway, don't overtalk. I wouldn't dump all my directions onto the actors. Instead, we would dissect the material a piece at a time, layer by layer. Let's take this as an example. She asks him to imitate the ukulele sound.
До мажор.
А как это звучит? Ты можешь сымитировать звук?
Что?
Сымитировать. Ну, сымитировать, как это звучит?
The first surface level direction that I gave was make him do what you want. Once I nailed that, we moved to a deeper layer. Second direction was keep him talking because you like his voice.
Ты можешь?
Нет, я не буду ничего
Ну,
имитировать.
пожалуйста, сымитируй, как это звучит. Ну,
Нет, я не буду ничего имитировать.
почему? Это же так просто. Ты же можешь сымитировать. Сымитируй.
Нет.
Как я должна научиться, если я даже не знаю, как это звучит? Ну давай, ну,
Нет,
ну
нет,
как это,
я-
ну как это звучит? Ну вот эта нота.
Пи.
And this is the way how we approached every scene of the film. I often asked actors what they could see in the scene, and only then I would tell them what I had initially intended. We would try both variants, and 50% of the time, I would let go of my initial perfect vision in favor of what felt right for the actors. The last thing, do as many different takes as you can.
Сцена 1, дубль 8. Сцена он, дубль 10.
We had a time limit for every scene, but within those boundaries, I would use our time to the maximum. By the end, we would have 8 to 10 takes for every scene, each with opposing emotions. It does make the editing more difficult, but there is no way you will not be able to find at least one version of your story from such sea of possibilities. Problem 11. How to edit a film. Even before the end of the filming, I could see that my incredible sorkin-like dialogue isn't going to work. 25-page script turned into 25 minutes of crap. There was a third character initially, a mutual friend. I asked my friend from university to play him, even though he wasn't an actor. I convinced him it could work, but he was the first one I had to cut. 20 minutes of crap. Shot, reverse shot, one line of dialogue after another. Apart from the bad writing, the cinematography was also quite poor. Though our director of photography managed to convince me to go with a Sony camera, I still wanted to use an ultra-wide lens. Close-ups looked like ass. They were supposed to mark pivotal points in the story, but they only highlighted the actors' spots. Cut. The crappy set was on full display. I cut out all shots where you could see it. All those months of building the set went down the toilet. 15 minutes of crap. When I showed this cut to the crew and the actors, nobody liked it. I found a composer thinking that it would solve the issue of my film being boring. Nothing could save it. The music was scrapped, as well as the film itself. I knew it all couldn't be for nothing. Almost a year later, I made another cut. It was 10 minutes of crap. I kept my dialogue to the minimum. It was bearable. At that point, all contacts with the crew were lost. So I had to write the soundtrack, edit the film, and color grade it all on my own. I knew nothing about how to do any of this, and it was really arrogant of me to think that I could learn any of these skills quickly. I wanted to, but it was going to take an insane amount of time. After months of attempts, I scrapped this version too. I made another cut. I downloaded the music that I could use for free. The dialogue was cut dramatically, so much so that now it was impossible to understand what the actual story was. I had to get creative. One skill I had at least become a little bit competent in was motion design. By using it, I managed to fill in the blanks. This also allowed me to work around our crappy cinematography. From 4 nights of shooting, I kept only the 2 shot and the intimate scene. But now, I managed to find the film. It's really simple, but at least the story makes sense. I think there is a takeaway from this situation. The brilliant idea that you have can turn out to be a bunch of crap, and you have to be brave to admit it and let it go. Problem 12. How to get people's attention. I didn't expect to hit 1 million views on YouTube. Miracles do happen, but one should be reasonable. I'm making a short film, which isn't a popular genre. Behind all the bells and whistles, this is just 2 people discussing stuff. Last but not least, I don't have money to buy any ads. I knew that the only way for me to reach the potential audience is with the help of my friends. But they still won't share my work if they are not interested. My goal was to generate sad interest. It starts with a poster. I knew it had to be eye-catching and weird, while having a recognizable human core. The most human part of my film is its moment of intimacy. I picked the shot of them being together. Whatever I did next, the actors' faces had to be preserved. It took a while to condense the main idea of my script down to a single image. We always had scissors, the ones we love, intimacy. It's a message complex enough. I really restricted myself from having anything else in the poster. The rest is up to the film to say. I made a teaser trailer. Its job was to condense the main idea down to a couple of scenes. In the first part, we cut between the jerky and sincere sides of their relationships. Because my poster is quite unusual, the second part of the teaser is dedicated to setting it up. We move away from the film being about 2 characters discussing stuff to presenting it as something extraordinary. That being said, I chose to finish with a beautiful but grounded shot.
Пойдем.
Presenting your idea isn't enough. People like human stories, so I made short videos to tell mine. Not surprisingly, these videos drew more attention than the teaser trailer.
Тратил кучу времени, чтобы сделать что-то гениальное, а потом вырезал это.
This video is part of my marketing campaign. The goal is to reach strangers who are interested in making short films. I get your attention, and you get some useful knowledge in return. I strongly believe that nowadays the director can't make a movie, release it, and expect people to go crazy about it. You have to personally stand in front of the camera and fight for people's attention. Hi, my name is Sergey. This is my story. By no means I say it's a definitive all-in-one course on how to make a movie. Each aspect discussed in this video takes much time to learn, even more to master. Go out there and make your movie. Don't study film, study a particular aspect of filmmaking you need to complete a particular project. But be humble, learn from your crew, learn from your actors, learn from anyone who is patient enough to teach you. The only thing I know is that I know nothing.